Hello, everyone, and hi, Irv Hughes here, and welcome to Government Business Today. And of course, like always, we love coming to you each and every week, bringing you tools, tips, strategies, and resources to help you grow your government contracting business. So today, we're really excited to have our good friend and colleague Tony Arps from the U.S. Department of Transportation. He's going to be sharing some information with you, some insider information that's going to help you grow your government contracting business. And guys, as always, we're going to talk about some of those things that can affect you and the growth of your business. Each week we come to you live right here on Government Business Today. So make sure that if you find our information meaningful and relevant to you, feel free to post it in social media, pass it along to some other business people who might be able to benefit from this information. Well, as you guys know, if you're watching us right now live, or if you're watching us through one of our social media channels that we stream to each and every week, guess what? You see Robert Lendrim, the Wall Street Hall of Famer himself. And I'm always excited to have him on with us. And Robert, how are you, sir?
Well, I am doing good. I'm doing real well. Thanks, Irv. I finally had about 6 inches of hair taken off. I don't know if you noticed that I got a big haircut yesterday. My Michelle, my wife, she's like, "No, honey, you got to get rid of it." So it's I'm feeling a little lighter. But no, dude, I'm good. So how was last Thursday? I mean, I was up in Maine, but how was it for you?
Yeah, so big shout out to Bertrand McHenry, who was a guest host, and so he took your seat there. And guess what? We had Urshel Metcalf on with us, and guess what? He talked about trusts, and for business people who can really make some steps as far as how they structure their company, people save on some taxes. And so that was last week. And then, of course, this week, Robert, each time we get into this, we kind of talk about, perhaps some lessons learned, some aha moments that we may have gotten into during the course of the week since we last visited. But just real quick, because I really want to make sure we get Tony some time to talk about what the work they're doing at US DOT. But I've started a new cohort here locally at our local county here in Harris County, Texas. And what's interesting is a lot of the folks that are actually in the training class are construction companies. And what's interesting is we've had some conversation about how these companies are structured. And, of course, obviously here at Government Business Today, we are not attorneys, but I certainly want to encourage our listeners to make sure if you're in the construction business, you're in the construction industry, make sure you talk with your attorneys about how to structure your business such that you can protect yourself personally, your personal assets. And that has a lot to do with structure and really how you run your business. Having said that, though, I want to use that as our segue to introduce Mr. Tony Arps. Tony, welcome to Government Business Today. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Irv, and thank you for inviting me and allowing me to be on the show. I've seen a number of your podcasts, and I was just waiting for my turn. Waiting for my turn. Again, good morning. My name is Tony Arps, and I'm the project director for the USDOT Gulf Region Small Business Transportation Resource Center. Again, we're an alphabet soup thing too, so it's SBTRC, Gulf Region SBTRC. The Small Business Transportation Resource Center is a part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. The Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization operates 11 of these field offices throughout the country, and the Gulf region is one of them. And I cover the states of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Louisiana. And what we are charged to do is to put forth the mission of the department as well as the overall administration's mission of ensuring that small businesses, especially those that are socio and economically disadvantaged, have an equitable opportunity to be a part of all of these infrastructure projects throughout the country. And what we do is we do a number of things here at the Small Business Transportation Resource Center. What we do is mostly is assist businesses with building capacity. And building capacity, it consists of access to capital, it consists of managing our business, and it consists of procurement. So we got those three things we look at. That's when someone comes to me, more than likely, those are the three things that they're needing assistance with. They need assistance with. I'm in business, and we all know that one of the things that most small businesses challenge is to have funding. So a lot of small businesses come to us wanting, how do I have access? How do I get more access to capital? So that's one area. Another area is when you're in this space, infrastructure, and if you desire to someday be a prime, or if you're already being a prime, one of the things you must have is funding. Because what we have to do is we have to make certain that if you have the opportunity to be given a project on a government project over a certain dollar threshold, we got to make certain that that project is completed so the taxpayer is not left hanging. So we want to make certain of that. So bonding, what that does, it ensures that the owner, meaning the agency, be it the city, be it the county, they're made whole in the event there is an issue with the contractor. So for those of you out there that are contractors or business owners and you're doing government work, at some point in time, especially as you scale your business, you will possibly and probably be asked to have a bond, and that's what we do. We assist, and Herb has been with me for the last 15 years in that capacity, helping us companies build capacity, because bonding is about building capacity, so you're able to do the job on time within budget. So bonding is a real big thing we have. But of course, the latest question I've been getting is about procurement, and that's been the easy part of my job because there's so much work out there. There's so much work out there, but what most business owners want to know is how to spend my time. Where do I need to spend my time at? Because the infrastructure bill that we've all heard about that's out there, everyone is asking, where do I go? So you want to spend your time wisely, because what's happening is this money is hitting the streets, and it's hitting the street fast. And it's going to vary across the country. I mean, Texas, we may have projects that are in the pipeline ready to go. So there's money for it. Another state may have money in the pipeline and they're ready to go. But if you don't have projects ready as well as funding to complete the project, because DOT doesn't fund anything 100%. So if it's a project, if a agency or entity has 60% of the money, DOT may come up with that 40%, but they don't do anything 100%. So that's the procurement thing. And of course, procurement is a big area. DOT has 50,000 employees. They have their hands in just about everything. Usually if there's something going on with some type of government entity, probably there's a bit of transportation involved in it. Or at least they're going to oversee it, or they're going to have one of the government, the state agencies oversee the money that they put in it. So it could be at a national park, it could be a state park, and if there's some money involved there, and TxDOT is going to be helping doing the roadway, and DOT is giving money, they're somewhere. Their hands are in somewhere.
So Tony, let me jump in right here, because you mentioned several things there. And so when you mention those areas, are we talking about things that your particular office does to kind of support small minority or women or veteran businesses, or are those specific things? Because you mentioned all the work that you and I have done over the many years together with regard to bonding and bond education, and certainly the bond education program is vital. But with regard to kind of the scope that you were talking about, the scope of support that that US DOT provides through the Small Business Transportation Resource Centers, my question is that specifically something you guys do? If a contractor is listening to this and they want to get some support, should they be reaching out to US DOT, or should they be reaching out to one of the SBTRCs?
And I'm glad you asked that question, Herb, because what you're really saying is, as a business owner, what scope of work do I do?
Yeah.
So I will say the vast majority of businesses we work with and scopes are those shovel-ready businesses, those businesses that actually perform infrastructure, meaning those businesses that, let's say, a landscaper, trucking, somebody who does rebar, So that's a lot of who we work with. However, on the professional service side, there's a lot of project management people that are looking for work, and that just depends on the agency they're working with. Some agencies,
Gotcha.
their prime contractors do most of that work themselves, so there may not be an opportunity to come on as a project manager with that particular prime contractor on a project at a certain agency. So let's just say, for instance, you're doing it for, I won't name an agency, so I'm not going to get into agency, but it could be an agency and they have a prime contractor doing a big project, and you want to do what they do in-house, and they do that in-house. So, we talk about how these projects have to have a certain percent, if it's federal dollars, of small businesses and DBE and socioeconomic businesses, but they can get their goal in different scopes of work. So the scope of work they're getting their goal in may not be on project management side, and a lot of times that don't involve federal money anyway. So I have engineering firms that come to me and like, oh, Tony, I'm a civil engineering firm, and we do these things with infrastructure projects. How do I get on? I see all these different projects out there, these different interstates. How do we be a part of that team? Well, what you really need to be is you got to be really on the front end, because I will say, most of the times when they come to me, the project's already started.
Yeah.
And what happens is these projects are formed, the teams are put together. So in the event that there's an I-10 expansion, that they probably working on an I-10 expansion that won't even start to 2025. Well, right now you probably got, that may be quite a ways off, but you probably got teams together that are looking at that project. So they're putting those teams together. So it may be a small professional service engineering firm that gets to one of those project managers at that large prime contractor, and they're part of the team. But once the project is up and running, that end is that's already taken care of. What they're looking for is the tradesmen.
Yeah.
Again,
And so Tony, Robert, I wanted you to get one of the questions in with regard to this, because to me, I think it's really important that not only we talk about for the benefit of our listeners, but we do talk about kind of how these, and you touched on it earlier, Tony, and that's why I want to circle back about, you were talking about these projects, really, how US DOT funds some of these projects.
Okay. I'm glad you asked that question, Irv. Without giving you a civic lesson.
Yeah.
Without giving us a civic lesson, okay? Initially, what happens is Congress appropriates funding to US DOT, and through its operating administrations, it provides funding to invest in these infrastructure projects and all these different innovative transportation things across the country. So what happens is there's a bill before Congress. Congress allocates the money. They approves the money. It goes to DOT, the Department of Transportation. The Department of Transportation then allocates it to all the different modes. There's 11 modes with DOT. I'm going to talk only today about 4, the one we're most familiar with. So DOT allocates the money to the different modes. For example, they allocate it to the Federal Aviation Administration. Okay. They also allocate it to Federal Highway Administration. They also allocate it to Federal Transit and Federal Rail. So, for example, Federal Highway, DOT takes money. The money goes to TxDOT in a grant form. So DOT allocates money to TxDOT to use to fund these different projects around the state. TxDOT then has the responsibility to go out and find a prime contractor to complete the project. So, for example, I-10, I keep saying I-10. TxDOT has money for I-10. They go out, they hire a contractor, be it Balfour Beatty, be it Williams Brothers, be it Kiewit. They all bid for that project. And once whoever wins that project, at that point, that's when they have to have different DBE contractors and that certain percent of DOT allocation. So DOT is not going to fund the entire project. So if it's $1 billion project, there may be only $100 million worth of DOT money on that project. And if it has a goal of 8%, That means on that project of 8%, if it's $100 million worth of DOT money, you're talking about $8 million that they are going to be required to have DBE participation. Now that's not the ceiling, that's just the floor. And the same
so Tony, let me jump in right there. So Tony, are you saying that there's a participation requirement if it's even X% of US DOT money in the project? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, there's a percent requirement. Regardless, if there's DOT money, there's going to be a DBE requirement there.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, that's good.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah,
like a question there.
Yeah, so Tony, so it just to kind of what you were saying earlier about this mad rush. I'm as you know, I'm here in Connecticut, and Connecticut got $6 billion of that infrastructure bill. And you know, when you talk about the FAA, the highway, transportation, and rail, you know, there's a lot of money sloshing around. And we were in a meeting, and I think I may have even mentioned it on this podcast or maybe a couple of months ago, where, you know, the guy from the state of Connecticut basically said, this is like Ricky Bobby at Talladega Nights. You know, if you're not first, you're last, you know, and you got to get on this money, but you got to do it the right way. And so, you know, hearing what you're saying, so if I have an interest in this for our listeners, is there like a general repository? Like, I know you're obviously down in Texas, but you know, we've got a lot of contractors construction up here in the Northeast. So would that be, you know, is there like a repository email or a way for people to reach out?
On the DOT website, it has a listing of how much money goes to each state.
Okay.
But one of the things I'm going to say too, in reference to that, is that the infrastructure space is not a startup space.
No.
And so what I mean by that is, if you're in this space and you've done a certain scope of work, you should have a general idea of how this money is being channeled down. So if I am a concrete contractor and I do that scope of work, if I've done that in the past and I know about all this money and I'm in Texas, I know the bulk of that money is going to TxDOT. I mean, not all of it as far as federal highway, but TxDOT's getting that, but I know the airport is getting that, and I know FTA is getting that. So in the past, how have I been going after opportunities? So that leads me to know that, hey, this money is coming down, so I need to go and do whatever I've been doing with those different modes. Now, Robert, I'm glad you asked that too, is that I speak of the modes given to the big agencies like your TxDOT, your Hobby Airport, your DFW Airport. But keep in mind, DOT also sends money to the cities and the counties as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the city may have a street where they're putting ramps on, and that project may be $5 million, but it may be $1 million worth of DOT money involved. So that portion of it needs to that's going to have a DBE goal on it as well. So the money funnels down with a lot of different infrastructure projects, but the vast majority of it's going to be with the big modes, like your state DOTs and your airports and your transits. And Robert, I want to say also too, knowing what your area does mostly in infrastructure. For example, in Texas, we love roads. So we love roads. So you know, our state DOT is going to be doing a lot of road work, okay? California, they big in the rail and things like that, as well as maybe up in where you at, Robert, transit may be big.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a big, yeah.
So that's where it's at. So
yeah.
Without being a little evasive about your question, it's again, this is not a startup thing, and
yeah, right.
For companies that have a little bit of familiarity with the industry. But if you are someone who's done mostly commercial work, or you've done just residential work, but you decided you have the capacity and you want to be a part of these opportunities that are out there, we will work with you, let you know the lay of the land, help you understand the industry, what's the scope of work. So I've had companies come into me and we'll spend hour, 2 hours, 3 or 4 different meetings just to understand the industry itself.
Well, I I love the way that you put that, because it's not like this is like this great big creationist big bang where it just happened.
Yes.
This is already the flow of money that's going in, and your value add, what you're willing to do and able to do, is actually sit down with contractors that are like, hey, how do I get into the flow of this? Is that a reason for somebody to pick up the phone?
That's definitely a reason.
Well?
But one of the things you got to keep in mind too, that this money is hitting fast. So it depends on if the particular agency has the project ready to go.
Right.
So in Connecticut, the project is ready to go. And without digressing, we could spend 30 minutes on that. But EV is a good example. All the states must give DOT their EV plan. Don't quote me for sure, but I think it's around the end of August. DOT is going to quickly come back and approve them, let them know where they stand around the 15th of September. Those dates are not specific. They want this money. They want this money being used next winter. They expect some action come January, February. You give them your plan. They expect things to go. So the other thing is, your particular entity that's involved in infrastructure, they must have these projects on the shelves that are ready to go. And some people are more ready than others.
Yeah. Well, we actually know that is in fact the case. And Tony, I can't let you go. We're coming up on the end of our time here, so I can't let you go without us talking about, because we've been talking about money getting pushed down to the states, cities, and so on for these different transportation projects. And my question is, with regard to US DOT, we know that money that's pushed down has to be authorized by some enabling legislation. What kind of role does US DOT play in this, in the whole legislative thing? Because one of the things, and I hate to get into politics because I steer clear of that every time I can, but a lot of times these bills, these enabling legislations that authorize this money, has to be obviously bipartisan. So what role does US DOT play in making that happen?
Well, when the money is allocated and it's given to the states, there's, for example, let's just use Federal Highway. Federal Highway has, they have an office here in the state of Texas and every state, and they're ensured that the money is being spent and the states are meeting their goals. So there's Federal Highway making certain. So if TxDOT gets this money for a particular project, it's over. There's some oversight as far as they have to put a plan together and how they're utilizing this money and how they're spending this money with these socioeconomic disadvantaged companies. So yeah, there's some oversight with DOT on that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Before you go further, I want to say one last thing though too.
Yeah.
We've been talking about grant money going down to the states, but now DOT has they do have some direct procurements that you can go on the government, the SAMS database to look for.
Oh,
they're there. But like I mentioned, we're in Texas. We do a lot of shovel-ready things. So there are still projects that are out there, but the vast majority is going to be in the grants. But there are projects that are and opportunities that are online in SAM. Just got to go in and type in the DOT funds.
Well, no, that's good to know, because some of our listeners, of course, may be looking for opportunities to do business directly with the agency. And so you're saying if you can go out there on SAM and kind of look through those opportunities, there are some there, if I hear you right.
Yeah, and then some of the opportunities are, it could be on that site. It could be, the site will lead you to some projects that are not thought of as DOT. For example, it may be a national park, that has DOT money being spent. So how would I find out that DOT is spending money at Yellowstone National Park? I'm not thinking of that. But if I go on that site, it may show that there's some money being spent at Yellowstone National Park. But again, it may be funneled through that state DOT, but at least I know that's where it's at. And then FTA, the federal aviation, their offices are different around the country. They have a lot of smaller procurement opportunities that you can get online as well.
So Tony, so we've got a few minutes left here. So I want to touch on somebody who may have been in business 10 years, maybe they've been doing business primarily in the private sector, and now they want to kind of, like we talked about earlier, sort of want to take this delve into public sector opportunities. And so my question is, if somebody needs to or wants to reach out to your particular office there, how do they reach you? Is there phone numbers, emails, websites? Can you touch on some of that? Because some folks will want to, I'm sure after this gets out, some people are going to want to reach out to your offices, or how can they find information around the country, or perhaps where there is a small business transportation resource center in their area?
I'm glad you asked that, Irv, because I know this podcast goes around the country. So what you want to do is go to the DOT website and you can just Google OSDBU. I mean, not Google it, but go to the DOT website, go in there and search OSDBU, and then they have a listing of all the different offices throughout the country. Throughout all the 11 regional office centers, they'll have those offices as well as all our contact information. So awesome. I'm glad you asked that question.
Awesome. So now somebody on here is probably going to say, all right, well, hey, listen, you know what? I want to talk to Tony. How do I reach out to Tony? Are you at liberty to put your contact information out there?
And I'll give that to you, Irv. I know you'll be sending something out. I'll give you my contact information. You can send that out. But again, just going on the DOT website, typing it in, it gives all that information, all the different offices, email addresses, and all that. And you can contact them direct. Contact everybody direct.
And that's transportation.gov. That's what I see, right?
Yes. You go to transportation.gov. OSDB.
Hey, Tony, you've been there now for what, 10, 11 years?
Yes.
You've been doing this?
Yes.
What's the biggest lesson learned that, like, somebody comes into your office, what's the biggest lesson that you try to teach them, like, right off the bat?
Well, one of the things that I like to say, and I wanted to say this to everyone out there, is that these opportunities, infrastructure is something that's ongoing. You know, they got a thing in the investment industry called FOMO, fear of missing out. Yeah. Sometimes I have business owners who come here and like, oh, there's this project and I really want to get on it. And if you're too late, they feel like they've missed out, but you really haven't missed out. There's just so many opportunities there. So what I find mostly is that sometimes you'll have business owners come here and it's just maybe not the time for them. They may not have the capacity. They may not be that knowledgeable of the industry to the point where they want to go and jump on a project. But one of the things that I try to let them know is, I know you can't do I-10. I know you can't, I-45 may not be you, but guess what? There's $1 billion I-30 projects coming. But they feel like if I miss this project, I missed it all, not realizing that the very next day, here's another opportunity on the street. So that fear of missing out is something, and that's going to happen now. With all this money, everybody's saying, I got to get on that. That money's there, I got to get on it. And I understand that. But we're going to be doing this for the next 10 years. These projects are going to be going on for quite a while.
Yeah, so, forever. Yeah.
If you don't get on a project right now, don't feel like, oh, I missed out on all that DOT money. I missed out on all that federal transportation money. So, Robert, I would say that's probably letting them know that there's plenty out there and there's plenty more to come.
You know, it's funny. Oh, sorry. What's that?
Oh, no, sorry. So we're coming up on the end here, Tony. Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to put out there that we want to have you back, because one of the things you touched on was helping people get access to capital. And so we touched on bonding, but when we come back, I'd like for us to talk about how you guys can facilitate helping these contractors get access to capital. And so I certainly want to say thank you so very much for joining us on our podcast today. And I need to hear you say that you agree to come back.
I agree. Just call me anytime. Right. I was waiting for my big opportunity, and I'm glad you.
All right.
But again, I just like anything to say that, you know, there's opportunities out there, and the secretary is committed to small businesses and those socioeconomic disadvantaged businesses, DBEs, with getting an equal opportunity, because now it's all about equity and inclusion. And the secretary and it's carried out throughout the entire administration, from the secretary all the way down to me.
That's great.
Hey, well, listen, thanks so much again for being on here and joining us this week, Tony. Really great information. And listen, guys, once again, thank you so much for each of you joining us each week here on Government Business Today. As you can see, we have a great lineup of guests on our show literally each week. So make sure you tune in and join us on any of the social media platforms that we simulcast on. Hey, and don't forget, if you are in a situation where you got a purchase order or some other contract that's bigger than your bank account, make sure you reach out to Robert, because Robert can help you do that. Again, thanks so much, guys. Tony, thank you so much. Don't hang up just yet. So we'll be right back right after this. Until next time, guys, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Right here on Government Business Today.